Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another blind creepypasta reading. This is the show where I read creepypastas that I have not read before and I offer my thoughts and opinions as we go along. Today we are reading the story Merry Chritmas, which is a very interesting title. I found this story out of nowhere. It was just in the recent wiki activity on the Creepypasta wiki, but this is kind of fun, you know? I get to find stories that maybe not a lot of people have heard of, obscure stories, but hopefully, you know, maybe I'll find a hidden gem. This story was written by an author by the name of Linguni. So Linguni, you are on the spot. It's time to see what you've come up with. Hopefully it will be good. I'm sure it will be. So let's continue and begin with Merry Chritmas. Today is 2 days away from the anniversary of my niece's death. No one knows how she died except her mother, who passed away recently, and me. I do not know how to tell, but I need to tell someone. No one will believe me anyway. They'd lock me up like they'd locked up my sister. I wouldn't blame them. I hardly believe what happened myself. Okay, that's a very gripping introduction. Already we're getting a very serious vibe from the story. And I am intrigued already. That was a very good introduction. Bethany was going to be 10 years old the day after Christmas, the year she died. She still believed in Santa. I thought she was too old for that shit, but her parents thought it was cute. They did everything they could to keep her away from realizing it was just a lie. Bethany loved Christmas and Santa and elves and all that. She used to tell me about an elf that would hide in her house. I just thought her parents must have been hiding a toy elf or something, but I asked them about it and they said they didn't have any elf dolls. I thought they were joking. Bethany's stories about the elf started getting stranger. She told me that one night she woke up to the elf sitting on the dollhouse next to her bed, watching her with its empty glass eyes. After that night, she said the elf turned bad. She said it would move around her room, making strange noises at night, and she told me if she tried to get out of the bed, the elf would run towards her and bite and claw her feet and ankles. The elf, she said, had too many teeth, which were long and thin but not pointed. She said its nails were long and sharp like claws. Of course I didn't believe her, but then she showed me the scars and new bite marks. The bite marks were normal human-sized, but very deep and definitely with more teeth marks. That's when I started to worry. I didn't believe in the elf at that point. I thought maybe she was doing it to herself, and I thought she might have been seriously mentally ill. I wish I was right. I told my sister my concerns about her daughter. She was worried too, so she found a psychiatrist for her. I thought that would help Bethany, but as Christmas came nearer, she seemed to get worse. I was staying over at my sister's house for Christmas Eve, and Bethany asked me to sleep in her room to protect her from the elf. I said yes. I thought that it was a good idea so I could figure out what was going on with her. Maybe she was biting her own ankles in her sleep. That night, Bethany woke me up and asked if I would get her some water. She didn't want to get up because she was afraid the elf would attack her. I didn't want to leave the poor girl in there alone, so I told her she had to come with me. She didn't want to come, but I wouldn't let her stay. I should have listened. Oh God, maybe she would still be alive if I listened. It's my fault she's dead. When we got by the door, I saw it. The elf was tall, with strange teeth and blank white eyes. I thought I was imagining it, so I turned on the light. It didn't go away. I know I should have tried to leave, but instead I tried to take a picture of it. As soon as I did, it started to run at us so fast I could barely see it. Everything happened so fast. Bethany, who had been standing so still, pushed me out of the room so hard that I fell to the floor. The door slammed shut. All I could hear was a voice screeching so loudly I could hardly hear Bethany's screams. It sounded like the voice was saying Merry Christmas, but it wasn't pronounced right. It sounded like Merry Chritmas. Anyway, I was trying to get back in the room, but the door was locked. I tried to kick it down, but I wasn't strong enough. I ran into the kitchen to find something to break the door as I called the police. They thought it was a joke. I didn't understand how they didn't hear the screaming. How did their parents not wake up? I found a brick and decided that was good enough to make a hole in the door or something. Suddenly I heard a ripping sound, and the screams and screeches stopped. I cautiously opened the door, which somehow unlocked, and the walls and the bed and all her toys and furniture were bright red, soaked in Bethany's blood. On the floor, the elf was hovering over Bethany's corpse. It was split in half vertically, and the elf was wearing her intestines around its neck and eating them. I screamed louder than I ever screamed before. Bethany's mother finally came out of her room and saw what happened. She didn't even make a sound. She just stared at the horrifying scene. We closed the door and put things in front so it wouldn't open. We went into the living room to wait for the police. When the police finally arrived, they questioned us and her husband, who hadn't heard a thing. I couldn't say anything. It was like a dream, so unreal. I just sat there staring into space. The only one who told the police what happened was my sister. The police removed the barricade from the front of Bethany's room, but when they opened the door, nothing was there. The blood was gone. The elf, Bethany, everything. The room looked completely normal, besides snow blowing in from the window. Everything was gone like magic. The police started a search party. They thought she ran away. After everyone left, I stood in her room alone and cried. I heard the sound of bells, and then I heard the elf whispering, "Merry Christmas." It's been a year now since Bethany's death. After Bethany died, my sister's mental health began to deteriorate. She boarded up the doors and windows of Bethany's old room. She never slept anymore. We found her trying to cut open her stomach several times, and we had to have her live in a mental hospital, where she ended up killing herself by making a noose out of her bedsheets. Now I am the only one who knows what happened. Everyone else still thinks she's missing. I didn't go near that house anymore, and I can't bring myself to talk to Bethany's father, but no matter what I do to forget what happened, I can't. Sometimes I still hear the elf's voice at night, and I'm afraid it's going to kill me next. It's almost Christmas. Well, that caught me completely off guard, to be completely honest with you. The title at first, Merry Christmas, I was like, what is this? My interest was piqued, but I went in cautiously optimistic, and I will have to say my optimism paid off, because I think I have found a hidden gem. I really like that story. I feel like the blood and the gore got a little bit over the top near the end when he was wearing her intestines. That was a little gross, and I felt like it was going a little too far. But that's pretty much the only sort of questionable thing I have for the story. Other than that, I really, really liked it. I loved how descriptive it was, how the beginning was incredibly sympathetic and really pulled you into the main character's torment after going through this traumatic and horrifying experience. And, it is a very unbelievable thing to happen, a scary elf just appears out of nowhere. I really enjoyed how it was introduced, everything like, Bethany was talking to this creepy elf, and then it showed up and was toying with her and toying with the main character. I really enjoyed how the main character wasn't the only one going through it. There was the niece, there was the sister, who also suffered the consequences of this horrifying occurrence. And I really liked it. I really, really liked it. That was... After reading so many bad and terrible stories for these past few months, it's so nice to get a breath of fresh air and get a story that is actually good and actually gets to me, actually gets me emotionally invested in a way. I really liked it. I really, really did. So, Linguni, if that is how I pronounce your name, you did a fine job with this story. I really enjoyed this story. You should be commended for the obvious amount of effort and passion that you put into this story. I very much enjoyed it, and I am looking forward to seeing what you come up with in the future. I really enjoyed it. Great creepypasta. I very much enjoyed it. I would genuinely rate it after giving I'm sitting on an 8 or a 9 out of 10, but I'm probably going to put it at an 8 because I very much enjoyed it. It was very, very solid. Had some interesting scenarios in it, a very sympathetic main character, and a very interesting monster that you don't see very often. You don't often see, you know, creepy elves going after people. They're mostly just clown dolls or, I don't know, Chucky or whatever. But this time it was an elf, and I feel as though it worked very well. So, once again, fantastic story. I'm so glad I read it. This definitely is a hidden gem in my eyes, and I will have to say it was fantastic, and I really liked it. So that's it for this story. Merry Christmas. Check it out in the description below. So thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay awesome, everyone. Goodbye.